What if everything you experience as reality is actually created by your brain? Most of the time, your brain does an incredible job of making sense of the world. But when something changes inside it, the way you perceive reality may never be the same again. Today, we're exploring some of the most fascinating neurological phenomena ever discovered. 1. Blind sight. If a stroke or brain injury completely destroys a person's primary visual cortex, they become clinically blind. They can't consciously see colors, shapes, objects, nothing at all. But here's where it gets astonishing. Place a cup in front of someone with blind sight and ask them to reach for it, and they may grasp it with surprising accuracy. Build an obstacle course, and they can often navigate around the obstacles, all while insisting they're stumbling through complete darkness. But how is it possible? Is it just a coincidence? Surprisingly, no. Visual information from the eyes doesn't travel only to the brain regions responsible for conscious vision. It also reaches older, evolutionarily more ancient structures, such as the superior colliculus. This unconscious visual pathway can still detect movement and the spatial location of objects. In other words, the brain can still see, it's just that conscious awareness no longer has access to that information. 2. Anton syndrome. If blind sight is remarkable, Anton Babinski syndrome is even more unsettling because it's almost the exact opposite. After a stroke affecting both occipital lobes, the patient becomes completely blind but has absolutely no awareness of their blindness. Ask them what color your shirt is, and they'll confidently answer, blue, even if it's bright yellow. If they walk into a wall, they'll explain it away by saying something like, the floor was slippery, or the room is just very dark. They genuinely believe they can see. This condition is caused by anosognosia, a complete lack of awareness of one's own neurological deficit. Although the primary visual cortex has been destroyed, higher-order visual association areas often remain intact and continue generating internally constructed visual representations. Because the injury disconnects these areas from real sensory input and from the brain's error monitoring systems in the frontal lobes, the brain never realizes that its internally generated visual experience doesn't match reality. The patient is, in a very real sense, seeing their own confabulations. 3. Synesthesia. Most people have heard of synesthesia, the phenomenon where someone can see sounds or taste words, but the neuroscience behind it is even more fascinating. This isn't simply a vivid imagination. It's the result of a real physical difference in the brain's wiring. During infancy, the brain is filled with an enormous number of connections. The visual, auditory, and tactile regions are all heavily interconnected. As we develop, the brain undergoes synaptic pruning, eliminating unnecessary connections and separating different sensory systems. In people with synesthesia, genetic factors appear to prevent some of this pruning from taking place. For example, in grapheme color synesthesia, the brain region responsible for recognizing letters sits directly next to area V4, which processes color within the fusiform gyrus. Because extra neural connections remain between these regions, simply seeing a letter automatically and involuntarily triggers the experience of a specific color. 4. Alien hand syndrome. One of the most unsettling neurological disorders occurs after damage to communication between the brain's two hemispheres, or following certain strokes affecting the parietal lobe. In alien hand syndrome, one hand, usually the left, appears to develop a mind of its own. Imagine buttoning your shirt with one hand while the other immediately unbuttons it. The systems responsible for planning movement and experiencing ownership of that movement become disconnected. The motor regions can still generate actions, but the neural circuits that create the feeling of agency, the sense that I am the one causing this movement, fail to receive the appropriate signals. As a result, the brain interprets its own hand as if it were being controlled by an external force. 5. Hemispatial neglect. Hemispatial neglect usually occurs after damage to the right parietal lobe, often caused by a stroke or brain injury. The patient isn't blind, the eyes function perfectly, but the brain simply ignores everything on the left side of space. What does that look like? If you place a plate of food in front of the patient, they'll eat only the food on the right half of the plate. Ask them to draw a clock, and they'll squeeze every number from 1 to 12 onto the right side of the circle, leaving the left side completely blank. The strangest part is that, when asked why they ignored the left side, they genuinely don't understand the question. The right parietal lobe plays a crucial role in directing spatial attention across the entire environment. When it's damaged, the brain no longer allocates attention to stimuli coming from the left side. The eyes still receive the information, but the brain simply refuses to acknowledge it. 6. Alice in Wonderland syndrome. This rare condition, most commonly associated with migraines, epilepsy, or certain viral infections, dramatically distorts a person's perception of size and space. Patients may suddenly feel that everything around them has shrunk to miniature proportions or expanded into gigantic objects. Some experience the unsettling sensation that one of their hands has stretched several meters long, while their feet have become tiny. The electrical communication between visual processing areas in the occipital lobe, which helps construct our internal body map, becomes disrupted. The brain can no longer accurately compare the size of the retinal image with an object's actual distance, causing its normal sense of spatial constancy to break down. 7. Formal thought disorder. Imagine speaking to someone who talks fluently, with perfect pronunciation, natural intonation, and expressive gestures, but whose sentences are complete nonsense. They genuinely believe they're speaking normally. If you don't understand them, they may become frustrated, convinced that the problem lies with you. This condition results from damage to Wernicke's area, located in the left temporal lobe. This region is responsible for language comprehension and for linking words to their meanings. Because Broca's area, which controls speech production, remains intact, speech stays fluent, but the underlying semantic system has collapsed. 8. Urbach-Wyeth disease. Urbach-Wyeth disease is an extremely rare genetic disorder that causes calcium deposits to gradually destroy both amygdalae while leaving the rest of the brain largely intact. The best-known patient, referred to in scientific literature as SM, is virtually incapable of experiencing fear. Researchers took SM through some of the world's most frightening haunted houses, showed her horror movies, and even placed highly venomous snakes and spiders directly in front of her. Instead of fear, she displayed little more than childlike curiosity. Neither her emotional responses nor physiological fear reactions, such as changes in heart rate or skin conductance, showed the patterns normally associated with fear. But there's a twist. Researchers eventually discovered one thing that could still trigger panic: having her inhale pure carbon dioxide, which creates the overwhelming sensation of suffocation. This revealed something remarkable about the brain. The amygdala is essential for recognizing external threats, but signals indicating an internal chemical emergency, such as rising carbon dioxide levels in the blood, are detected by much older survival circuits in the brainstem, which remained fully functional in SM. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you'd like to hear about in the next video.